For years, one idea has shaped almost every discussion about Elden Ring's story. The Greater Will chose her, guided her, spoke to her through the two fingers, and never once fell silent. It is the assumption beneath the Golden Order, beneath the Erdtree's gold light, beneath every war fought in her name, so obvious that almost no one thinks to question it. But Shadow of the Erdtree hides something that breaks that certainty apart. Buried in a chamber most players walk straight past, deep beneath the cathedral of Metyr, hidden in the dark, there lies a being who has not spoken in centuries. Her body lies wrapped in root and shadow, forgotten by the very world she once helped shape. Her name is Metyr, Mother of Fingers, and her children are the two fingers themselves. If that's true, then everything built on their guidance deserves a second look, including the woman who believed them most. So let's ask the question no one has fully answered. Did the Greater Will ever actually guide Marika? Or was she following the voice of something that had already gone silent? Before the shattering, she was simply an Empyrean, one candidate among many capable of becoming a god. The two fingers recognized her, setting her on the path to become the vessel of the Elden Ring. From that moment, nothing she did was seen as ambition. It was scripture. The Golden Order rose in her name. Destined death was torn from the Elden Ring, and an entire civilization knelt to a plan she believed had been written by something greater than herself. That belief needed one thing to survive: a living connection to the god who supposedly wrote it. This is where Metyr enters, and where the story starts to fracture. Metyr is not some minor figure invented for the DLC. She is one of the oldest divine beings in the lands between, a source of the fingers who guide it. At some point, she truly did receive messages from the Greater Will, real ones. That contact is what gave her, and by extension her children, their authority in the first place. The hands that shaped Marika's destiny were never merely symbolic. They were flesh-born from a being who once truly received the Greater Will's messages. Then it stopped. Count Ymir describes her as broken, damaged, a being left alone in the dark for so long that the silence itself became part of her nature. This is not something Shadow of the Erdtree confirms outright, but nowhere in the game does anyone claim the messages ever resumed. Sit with that for a moment. Sit with that for the two fingers, the very beings who selected Marika, who whispered guidance into her reign, are the children of a god who may have stopped hearing from the Greater Will generations before Marika ever ascended. They didn't necessarily lie to her. They may have simply kept speaking out of habit, out of faith, long after the line had gone dead, never realizing it had. That single detail rewrites the entire chain of command the world believed in. Not Greater Will, to two fingers, to Marika, to Golden Order, but Greater Will, to silence, to Metyr, to fingers still speaking anyway, to a queen who never knew the difference. If you're enjoying these deep dives, consider subscribing. There's much more to come. Think about what that means for every whisper the two fingers ever gave her, every candidate they blessed, every war they sanctioned, every claim to divine legitimacy. All of it passed through hands, born from a god, already cut off from the source. They were never liars in the obvious sense. They may have simply inherited a role and kept performing it, mistaking memory of the Greater Will for its living voice. That is a far more unsettling kind of unreliability than deceit. It means no one, not even the fingers themselves, could tell where guidance ended and habit began. And here is where her own words stop sounding like devotion and start sounding like doubt. At one point, she declares that the blissful early days of blind belief are long past, not a rejection, an admission. she once believed without question, and something changed that. She goes further, calling for a deeper search into the very foundations of the order she built. A ruler secure in her divine mandate does not ask her people to dig beneath it. She was not told the truth about Metyr. The game never gives her that scene, but she didn't need the full picture to feel the cracks. Systems built on false certainty tend to contradict themselves long before anyone can name why. That call to search the depths was not just a phrase. It became a movement. The Golden Order fundamentalists took her words literally, digging beneath the surface of the faith she built, unearthing truths the Order had buried along with them. They were branded heretics for it, but they were only doing what their queen herself had asked. If the woman at the center of the religion is quietly telling her people to dig, that is not the language of someone certain her God is still listening. Every choice from here on is hers, and hers alone. She is the one who accepted the fingers completely, when believing was easiest. She is the one who built the Golden Order in a voice she assumed was divine. She is the one who tore destined death from the Elden Ring, betting an entire age on a plan she could never independently verify. And she is the one who, decades later, turned that same demand for proof inward, urging her own faithful to question what she had once accepted without hesitation. Picture the throne room of the Erdtree, gold light pouring through branches grown from her own conviction. That was built on a signal she never once got to verify herself. Every law carved into the Golden Order, every soldier sent to purge those who worshipped older gods, traces back to a chain of trust she inherited rather than confirmed. That is not a passive vessel receiving instructions from above. That is a ruler making irreversible decisions in the dark, then slowly realizing the dark had been there the whole time. Once that certainty began to collapse, the shattering no longer looks like sudden rebellion. For most of Elden Ring's history, that moment reads as betrayal, a god turning against her own faith. Picture it the old way, the Elden Ring resting whole atop the Erdtree, and a queen who simply snapped, but look at it through Metyr, through a line of communication that may have gone quiet long before the hammer ever fell. The shattering stops looking sudden. It starts looking like the final act of a crisis that had been building for years, one law and one doubt at a time, delivered by a woman who could no longer tell whether the voice guiding her had ever been real. Not rebellion against the greater will, a break from those who kept claiming to speak for it. So did the greater will ever truly guide her? Elden Ring never says. What it offers instead is harder to sit with. A being silent in the dark beneath the cathedral of Metyr. Children who kept speaking anyway. Generation after generation. Never once telling their chosen queen that the line might already be dead. And a queen who built an empire on faith, then spent her final years trying to tell that faith apart from an echo. For untold ages, beneath the cathedral of Metyr, she lay wrapped in root and silence, outliving the faith she once inspired without ever knowing what it became. And somewhere in that silence is the real shape of the tragedy. Not a being who abandoned the world on purpose, a being who simply stopped, while everything built in her name kept moving anyway. Her faith built an empire. Her doubt brought that empire to its knees. If you were Marika, and the only voice claiming to speak for God could never prove it truly did, would you have built the Golden Order at all?